Hello, my name's Sam Brown, the founder of Studentsurveyor, and this is our first ever interview with Stephen Marshall, talking about CRM and how to use it for young surveyors. Hope you enjoy. Stephen.
Hi Sam.
Good to see you.
And you? Thanks for having me.
Let's first ever interview.
It is.
Is it first interview for you?
It's my first interview.
Here we go.
First time under the bright lights.
First time for you, first time for the site, so that's all good. Do you want to give a sort of brief background to yourself?
Yeah, so I guess let's start with how I got into property.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do for a career until I was about 16, and my parents moved house, and we had a surveyor come round to take a survey of the house, and he pulled up in a very nice convertible TVR, and he said to me, "What are you doing over the summer?" And I said, "Not a lot. My dad had his own business at the time, so I said I'll be doing a bit of work for him."
Yeah.
And he said, "Would you like to come and do a bit of work experience with me?" So I agreed.
So
And
you spotted the talent from an early age.
obviously, so I agreed to go and do that, and spent 6 weeks pretty much of that summer cruising around in a convertible TVR, and that was it. I was sold. Property was the career for me.
And was that sort of residential survey?
That was residential, yeah. So the guy actually now, he only lived about 4 or 5 miles away from my parents, and now lives in the same village as my mum. So I see him quite often. Yeah. So yes, yeah. So we still keep in touch.
So where did you go after? So where did you go from that? You went into university.
So from that, yeah, I was really undecided when I left doing A levels at 18 whether to go into a career,
yeah,
or whether to go on to uni. There was a real dearth of jobs available generally at the time.
Yeah.
So my hand was slightly forced, and I went on to university. First of all, went to Durham, did an engineering course for a year there, and then stayed in the northeast and went to Northumbria,
yeah,
and studied estate management there. And from then I moved down south to Cambridge, got a graduate placement with Bidwell's, and spent about 10 years there. First couple of years doing general practice work, and then about 8 years in their landlord and tenant team.
And how was it sort of making that move from the northeast of London? Did you have family down here that sort of helped make that transition? Or?
Not at all. So I went to Cambridge very much not knowing anybody there.
Yeah.
But I think 3 things that really helped me settle in there was, first of all, I played a lot of sport at the time.
Yeah.
So it was rugby season. So moved there on a Sunday, started work on the Monday. Tuesday night went to rugby training, met a group of lads straight away. The second thing was, within Cambridge, the professional services industry in Cambridge is a very small,
quite close.
Some might say cliquey, but close-knit community. Yeah. So I made a lot of friends through that. And then Bidwell's was a fantastic firm, small grad scheme, so we got to know each other very quickly, settled in really well.
You say you did 10 years there?
I was at Bidwell's for 10 years, yeah.
Always in Cambridge, or did you ever move around?
I was predominantly in Cambridge for the first 8 years, and then the last 2 years have been at Bidwell's. Bidwell's merged with a company called Drake and Partners.
Right.
They were an agency outfit that had offices in Milton Keynes and Northampton. And I helped another guy who did valuation work at the time. I was doing L&T, so we went over and set up a professional team over there.
So then when did the time come where you came into CBRE, and what brought that move about?
Yeah, so I left Bidwell's and went to work for a small outfit, again doing general practice work in the main, called January's, for just under 2 years. And then I was headhunted to do this job. And not in a million years did I ever envisage, when I moved to Cambridge, A, working in London, because that just wasn't for me at the time, and B, doing valuation. Yeah. But here I am. 10 years into CBRE, working in London as a valuer.
As a senior director in the world's largest property company as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously we all know that you've recently won a very prestigious award at the CBRE Awards, the CRM Award for Client Care. Do you want to tell us a bit more about how that came about, how you became the representative for that client, and the strategy that you put in place to improve that relationship? Yeah.
So first of all, Sam, I really need to point out that was a team award.
Right.
So I accepted it on behalf of the team. So I think first up, massive team effort. this year, 2016,
Yeah.
on that particular client account. We managed to increase revenue from every single service line, which was a fantastic achievement.
Yeah.
Revenue, full stop, was up a lot.
Every service line.
Every single service line was up on revenue. Yeah. So the engagement. So in client care terms, we judge ourselves on three things: revenue, engagement, and client feedback.
Yeah.
So revenue was up substantially. Engagement was great, as I've said. Every service line we were up on fees, and I think that was the key to the success last year, that we truly engaged the client in every single service line and worked really well as a team together. And I say team in the context that the CBRE team worked well together, but we worked really well together with the client. So, you know, a lot of the time we are acting as one body, as a team, with the client.
It's important to also point out that it's not only sort of the CBRE valuation team or the valuation department of Hermes that won the award. It was across all boards, so sort of
Absolutely.
lettings for them, lease renewals for them.
Yep.
So every single service line had a contribution to the award.
Absolutely, yeah.
So what did you sort of approach this year any differently to previous years, or was there a sort of, did you take a single sort of fundamental approach to it, or was there different types of approaches?
Not really. I think this is something that's been built over many, many years.
Yeah.
Relationships aren't formed overnight.
Yeah.
And I would say that's the key thing here, is that we have as a team worked to build that relationship both as an internal body and work well together, but also with the client. So, it's been we've been putting the foundations in place for many, many years.
Yeah.
I've been involved in the account since 2012. So that's 5 years of myself and Tony Devlin, who's the other account director, working on the account from a client care perspective, with a great team of other people from within CBRE.
So going forward now, obviously you've now won that, but can you sort of depart some knowledge onto the younger generation? Because I'm guessing the fundamentals of building that relationship, and as you said, it is a lot about building the relationship over time. Can you sort of give us some knowledge in sort of how to form that relationship and how to go forward from that point? Yeah,
I think for me, Sam, the three main ingredients here are, first of all, trust. Secondly, it's about adding value.
Yeah.
And third of all, it's about communication.
Yeah.
So trust, as we've just mentioned, is built up over many, many years.
Yeah.
When you get a new girlfriend, the magic doesn't just happen on the first date. So it is about building up over a number of years a relationship, not just with myself and Tony as account directors and the client, but with the whole team, and across every level. From within Hermes, from the C-suite right the way through the whole fund managers, asset managers.
And is that something you sort of pressed along all the Hermes team, which you said, we really want to build this trust across the board? So from graduate level all the way to sort of ED, you want to make sure there's relationships throughout the sort of different departments.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's about, especially at the more junior level, it's about hand-picking those relationships, because with Hermes we tried to run a junior CRM team, and it didn't really gather as much momentum as some other junior teams because there are very few junior people at Hermes.
Yeah.
So I guess the model of matching our junior people with their junior people was never going to work, because there's not a natural marriage there.
Yeah.
So it's more about picking the junior people that we think are going to work well with our more senior people, and then working as a team.
Yeah.
With the client
team. Struggle for the junior people within a sort of large firm at CBRE. Sort of, you look at your counterparts, and maybe there's not so many of them there.
Yeah.
So then you have to sort of adapt and move and evolve and build relationships with people who maybe not your sort of demographic, and learn how to build relationships that way.
Yeah.
But I suppose that's essential to sort of business in the long term future.
Absolutely, and I think again that's not something that just happens overnight. That's for you as a graduate, that's something that you should have as very much as a long-term goal, and you shouldn't be expecting that during your 2-year tenure on the grad scheme to build these relationships and to be going into clients and being able to bill them a fee after that 1 or 2 years.
And I think as well, it's something that maybe graduates go in there with all the enthusiasm and think like, I'll build my contacts and I'll be a name within the industry within 2 years, but it doesn't really work like that. Because if you're a fund manager, you're not going to all of a sudden look at a graduate and say, oh well, I trust this guy 100% within 2 years of working with them, with little experience.
Yeah,
You've got to do the work, be good at your job, and slowly build that relationship, and get the sort of personal relationship there, but at the same time, just prove yourself so that that relationship can be built.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, and that takes me back to, we've recently done a batch of graduate interviews, and one of the questions that we asked in the graduate interview was, how would you build trust with a client? And it's interesting to listen to the answers of people that are maybe still at university or on a year out before they come into employment, how they look at that either in the short term or long term. And I think the better answers are from the people that understand that a relationship is a long-term project. Yeah,
exactly. And I think one of the best ways to learn it that I found through the graduate scheme is maybe not even take a lead role in the relationship, but maybe just sit back, watch the senior guys, watch how they interact with people, learn things like if you walk into a client meeting, don't take the seat straight away, don't take your jacket off straight away. So the client offers you a drink, even if you don't want one, take a glass of water at least, and you can sip it or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's sort of learning the sort of mannerisms as well.
Yeah, and I think when you come fresh out of university or as a graduate or as an apprentice, out of school, these are skill sets that you haven't developed yet.
Yeah.
So you do need to work at them, but we've got such a wealth and a breadth of experience and talent within the organisation that what a learning ground for you guys.
Yeah, it's perfect, isn't it? So in regards to 2017, we've now entered a new year.
Yeah.
We're into the second month. I can't believe it's February already.
Yeah.
But talk me through, what are your thoughts going into 2017? What are investors thinking? What are clients saying? Give us some thoughts into values and where you see them going in 2017.
Okay, so first of all, my first prediction for 2017, Sunderland to stay in the Premier League and Newcastle not to get promoted.
I mean, from that alone, we can disregard any advice that you give.
No, let's look at the property market in the UK, and undoubtedly Brexit had a major impact on the market. From valuation terms, all property values are down just under 2.5% across 2016. Transaction volumes were down, investment transaction volumes were down around 25% across the board. So, a huge impact on the market. But, it was only so huge off the back of a brilliant 2015, remember?
Forget,
absolutely.
In the September of 2015, I remember walking into the CBRE office. We're at, some would say, scary low.
Almost at 2007 points. Levels on prime,
And to what extent did Brexit really have that much of an effect on it? Was this just part of the cyclical nature of the property market?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, in my opinion, Brexit was basically the catalyst for a market shift that was waiting to happen, or in some sectors of the market that had already started to happen. Shopping centre market, for example, we'd already seen pricing start to edge out, less investor interest in that sector perhaps, prior to the June date. So, undoubtedly Brexit had a major impact. How much of an impact was it comparative to other factors that were affecting the market at the time? It's very difficult to say, and I don't think anyone can really pull out a percentage figure to determine how much of an impact Brexit had. But no doubt about it, Brexit was the catalyst for making the market move quickly.
Yeah, and then there was this sort of moment where everyone sort of squeaky bum time, thinking, when the funds started closing down, was this going to be a repeat of 2008? But fortunately, we've seen that it hasn't been so severe, and the markets are, would you say, stabilising?
I would say that since the end of the summer, so September, October time, we started to see a bit of a bounce back. And as at the year end, December, I would say most sectors within the market are relatively stable. There are still exceptions at either end of that. So, we've seen throughout the course of the year smaller lots, particularly sub 10 million, trading really well, particularly in retail high street sector. Industrial estates also have traded particularly well, in the industrial and logistics market as a whole during 2016 was going great guns, about 6% transaction volume increase from 2015. High street 30-odd% increase on transaction volumes since 15. So, there have been areas of the market that have, I guess you could coin as being Brexit proof.
The auction market as well.
Absolutely, that small lot size.
Absolutely breaking the records.
Absolutely.
But then on top of that, going further forward, Theresa May has now outlined her sort of approach to Brexit.
Yeah.
Many people would say it's now quite a hard Brexit. People were anticipating maybe a softer approach. What are your thoughts on how things go from here? Do you see a bumpy ride through 2017, or do you think things... Because in some ways, it's very arguable that people have been scaremongering, but have the real effects of what people have threatened actually happened? For example, Tim Cook today, he was seeing Theresa May talking about his new expansion with Apple, the 500,000 square foot in Battersea. There's definitely business going on. Do you think we've got a positive future, or do you think people will start leaving London and things are looking more gloomy?
Yeah, I think in the context of the wider market, there is still money to invest in the UK. Let's get that fact straight first of all. So there is quite a lot of inflow of cash that's wanting to get into the UK property market. The institutions have come back into the market. The unit priced funds that we were talking about just now that had redemptions and closed just after Brexit are back in the market and buying. So there's quite a wealth and breadth of money available to spend in the investment market. How will that pan out throughout the year? I think we're still pricing at yields that are pretty keen in the context of a market cycle. We're still pretty much at the top of it. I can't see much change in that during the course of the year, but I think you're right. As you say, we will see some bumps in the road. What will be the catalyst for those bumps? Well, we've got potentially 3 or 4 European elections, so it'd be interesting to monitor the reaction to that. The Trump effect, who knows what Donald Trump's going to do going forward, but I think by and large, and certainly as a house view, it very much seems that the Trump election comes with quite a lot of positivity attached to the property market.
The thing people forget is he was a real estate man.
Absolutely.
He still is very much.
Yeah.
And a lot of his policy is about reducing taxes, which will increase spending. He's got a lot of policies on infrastructure, which is good for the construction industry. So overall, there is quite a few positives for the real estate industry with Trump coming in. So yeah, but overall, I think 2017's got a good outlook. What about you?
I think reasonably good in the context of where the year that we've just come out of. It won't be as good as 2015, but as we mentioned earlier, that was a stellar year. So I think it will be reasonably good. One thing that interests me is our forecasting in terms of rental values. So we're forecasting a bit of a bumpy ride for the office market. So I think that will be quite interesting. And just picking up on a point you made earlier, would people leave London? I don't think that's the case. I think London has so much to offer in terms of a workplace destination that I think it would be very difficult for firms to move great waves of staff out of London and offer them an opportunity in Dublin or Frankfurt, which quite frankly, who's going to want to do that?
Exactly, and at the end of the day, people have a decision in where they work as well. Excellent. Brilliant. Well, anyway, I think we better leave it there before the time runs out. So
thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Stephen.
Cheers.
Thanks for you.